He has a novel called Rats in the Walls. And do y'all know he named the cat Nigger Man? What? You named the cat what? I was just like, of all the names to name a cat, Nigger Man. Who hurt you? Peace, love, and light, African people. It is the Goddess Neath Night. This is the Blackest truth war take the not so easy topic of racism, white supremacy, break it down and make it easier for us to maneuver through. Sunday, August 16th, 2020, HBO debuted Lovecraft Country, oddly 4 days before the actual H.P. Lovecraft's birthday himself. Based on the 2016 Matt Ruff novel, this was absolutely phenomenal. Written by Misha Green, Shannon Houston amongst others, and also produced by Misha Green, J.J. Abrams, Jordan Peele, a host of others, and directed by a host of people. Each episode has a different director, so I'll try to be intentional on letting you all know who did what. However, for this episode, it was directed by Jan de Mang. I hope I'm saying it right. Before I get into these subliminals, I must say, whomever's idea it was to take this book and create a series, thank you. This was something I needed and I didn't even know I needed it. And it has been a thrill and an adventure ever since. Now, 15 subliminals that everyone missed in the very first episode. 1. What was this bat octopus that Jackie Robinson ended up hitting with his bat? I heard a lot of people say Cthulhu. However, Cthulhu is huge. This is more of a Cthulhu, or what is called a star spawn, a smaller version of Cthulhu. See, the Cthulhu are star spawns of Cthulhu himself. Cthulhu is the fear of the unknown, the possibilities of the future that you hold no possession over. Originally mentioned in H.P. Lovecraft's Call of Cthulhu, this came to him in his dream to essentially allude to things to come. Second subliminal. Do y'all remember where the Queen said just crossing over into the promised land?
Just going over another bridge named after some dead slave owner. Finally made it to the promised land. Hallelujah, amen.
Good riddance to old Jim Crow.
Well, this is the story of the three Billy Goats Gruff, where the three Billy Goats want to cross over to greener pastures to be able to feast more, thus the promised land. However, they have to encounter the troll under the bridge, whom they all have to figure out a way to outsmart. They shot this perfectly. After the Cthulhu scene and then entering into this, I was literally like, what is happening right now? What is happening? And it was so good, I just had to keep watching. Third subliminal, on the bus ride into Indiana. Pay attention to the music. Life Could Be a Dream skips when the bus breaks down. Not even more than 20 minutes prior to this, the Queen just mentioned going over into the promised land. Yet, they can't ride, thus giving a little bit more value to Tick's previous statement, good riddance to old Jim Crow. Now they've just literally crossed into new Jim Crow. Fourth subliminal is the connection between Atticus and H.P. Lovecraft himself. If you all paid attention, Tick picks up this book, but then he tastes his finger. If you ever watch magical movies or shows, you'll know, like when a sorcerer or a wizard comes, sometimes they'll swipe their finger against blood or dust, they'll smell it and then they'll taste it to kind of get an idea of when it happened and who it was and what emotions they were going through at that time. Recall where Tick was explaining to the woman about stories.
Stories are like people. Love them doesn't make them perfect. You just try and cherish them, overlook their flaws.
Well, this is a lot like H.P. Lovecraft. He was a known bigot and racist, but yet his stories still stand to this day. He has a novel called Rats in the Walls. And do y'all know he named the cat Nigger Man? What? You named the cat what? I was just like, of all the names to name a cat, Nigger Man. And H.P. Lovecraft, much like Tick, had an estranged relationship with one of his parents, with his mother. So Tick not having the best relationship with his father and kind of immersing himself into Pulp Fiction is very, very similar to H.P. Lovecraft. Fifth subliminal, Denmark Vesey was actually a black man enslaved in South Carolina who anticipated having a big slave revolt. However, it was cut short. When he walks into this bar, he goes to the back and talks to the owner by the name of Sammy. It's a little bit different from in the book. However, here is the LGBTQ agenda. I often talk about this in my videos. I even explained it in one of my last dissections of a TV series. This is something that is always slipped in our media. What's interesting is the book didn't have a scene where the owner was receiving fellatio, and I'm interested to see as I continue to read if there'll even be what the remainder of the show had in it. 6, Subliminal. The rivalry between Letty and Ruby. We see this beautiful scene. Ruby is up in this beautiful dress having this concert, and Letty's kind of brought up on the stage by the guests, by the fans. This is that light skin privilege, and the camera does very well at translating their relationship and this kind of tension and envy between them. This was probably one of the main reasons why I wanted to purchase the book, to see if this subtle colorism and rivalry between Letty and Ruby is actually consistent with the book. Letty herself would be considered the helpless mulatto. 7, Subliminal. Reading and forward-thinking black people. From Tick having the Princess of Mars sitting on his lap, to reading a Miss Waiting on the bus, to having reading material when they get on the road, Hippolyta having telescopes, Marvin being able to tell them about history, Uncle George with the travel guide, Diana with the Pulp Fiction. These are forward and reading black people, very progressive, very well-rounded, and I really enjoy seeing this. The 8th Subliminal that we see is the Flashbacks of History. Not only pictures that we saw from Gordon Parks or the sign on the bus for the colored race, but listen to the audio of James Baldwin.
I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah.
Us learning why the White House was even painted white.
Uncle George, remind me why the White House is white.
War of 1812. British soldiers put the executive branch to torch. Then later, when the slaves rebuilt it, they had to paint the walls white to cover up the burn marks.
Who else found that out this series? There were so many historical references that the episode put in it that really created that nostalgia feel. It did really well at showing the hypocrisy of America. The 9th Subliminal is the color choices. Notice Tick is often in forest green. Letty is often in red. Uncle George is often in yellow. Even Christina Braithwaite being in black with the red hat. The colors that are used allude to who they are in the series and what their feats are going to be. Look down below in the description for a great article on the use of colors in movies and what they mean to get a better idea. The 10th Subliminal was the affinity for the typical light non-black woman in the estranged relationships. Letty and Marvin had an estranged relationship. Letty and Ruby had an estranged relationship. Atticus and Montrose having that typical black man doesn't get along with his father, or there's an issue. Atticus having the red woman in the very beginning of the show being non-black. Atticus calling to South Korea and an Asian woman picking up the phone, and it seeming that there might have been some type of love, intimacy relationship, and even his attraction to Letty. Notice when they get saved in Simmonsville by the silver car, when the woman who we find out later is Christina Braithwaite exits the car, there's kind of like this look that they give each other. Like, and I was just like, see, there that shit go. There they go with that shit. 11th Subliminal was the white liberal at the diner.
Just 3 of them. Just sat down. I swear I didn't serve them.
This was a trigger for me. I'm not sure if you all know. However, I still feel some type of way about Starbucks. I don't give a good goddamn if they replace their CEO, they close down for a whole month to retrain their employees. Starbucks has too much blood on their hands when it comes down to black people. And this gave me feels of the barista that calls the police or calls backup. Although they themselves didn't physically touch anyone, they led to the actions and the terrorization. This is that white liberal. Oh. The 12th Subliminal was the assertion of women and the borderline disrespect. And many of you may not agree with me on this one. However, that's fine. When Letty comes storming out of the back of the diner and she like, get y'all asses up, we gotta get the fuck up out of here. And you know, she like, get your ass in the car. There was on more than one occasion, the tone, the assertion, the aggression in which she spoke to the men kind of gave me those feelings of, see, if you have friends and individuals that you interact with outside of the West who weren't raised in the West, they'll let you know that the women are borderline disrespectful to the men. Like, we do and say things that are a little bit more abrasive than most other women in other cultures. And I felt that the black woman's language towards Tick and Uncle George in here was a little bit assertive. And I feel like this is that learned behavior. And that was just kind of like one of those things where it's like a tertiary or quaternary effect of feminism. Like, we can do our own things. We can take the wheel. We can grab it. We can do it. You do what we say. It kind of gave me one of those woman movement feel. That's just me. The 13th subliminal. Uncle George has a picture of Tick's mom. Not only did he almost stumble when Tick mentioned that Montrose wrote him a letter, there was kind of like this fear in his eyes. He had to grab a table just to stand up. But then when we see that Uncle George has a picture of Tick's mom, it kind of gives you an idea of, was there some form of infidelity that happened? Even when Hippolyta said,
"What has God did to you? Used to be you couldn't wait to go on some grand adventure.
now you know what's gotten into you." And Hippolyta and Uncle George will probably go off to be two of my favorite characters throughout the series, simply because they just captured something so real for me that, and then she got this natural hair. Oh. The 14th subliminal, which is probably one of my favorites, that the real monsters were more humanitarian than the white supremacist monsters. At the scene where Tick, Letty, and Uncle George are almost shot in the woods, the real monsters essentially kind of saved them from the white supremacist monsters. All throughout this episode, you see from the chase down in Simmonsville, having to ask to make a U-turn and then saying pretty please and all of this.
Say, pretty please, will you let this smart nigga make a U-turn here?
From being pulled over in the next town after they make it past Sheriff Eustace Hunt. But then to be saved from monsters by real monsters. When I mentioned the 3 Billy Goats gruff passing over the troll bridge, these are those trolls. Even Tick said it when they were contemplating going to Simmonsville.
There's a diner called Lydia's I got a tip on near here.
Where is it?
Simmonsville.
You know what that area be populated by on Diane's Atlas? Bunch of trolls who pick their teeth but don't wear their motors.
And the last subliminal is the oh so typical white savior. Can't get away from it. Christina Braithwaite saving them with the car crash, and even at the end walking up to the door of Artem. Blonde hair, blue eyed, pale skinned white people in black, alluding to power, also alluding to villainism, and then the red meaning blood, fiery, sinister things. When I saw this scene, I said, oh, I should have known they was gonna put it in there. Now, I did do a much more extensive video explaining who the Red Woman descended from the sky was, reading a poem on the creation of niggas written by H.P. Lovecraft, and just about every single detail that you could have possibly got in the series. However, it ended up being like over an hour, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to have to cut that short. So if you all are interested in that, please leave that down in the comments below, and I will actually put that in some type of audio format. Just, there's literally so much to see and to catch in this very first episode. So know that these 15 subliminals are only scratching the surface of the possibilities of what I caught. Okay? Thank you to everyone who has donated to the channel. I really appreciate you. To anyone who finds their name on this list, be sure to follow me on Instagram, so when I go live, you'll be able to hop on the video with me. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to come back for episode 2, Dissection. Mwah.